get too excited and forget. I just talked to bro, like his whole presentation finna be different. Like y'all gonna be, it's different.
You gonna throw us for a ride?
Man, I don't know if you ever looked up, like you gonna see. Like it's gonna look different from the moment he just get on camera.
All right.
He is what I would call, is he on here yet? He's what I would call a creative's creative. Okay, y'all got the emails, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna send out one more email just to make sure, because I just feel like, I don't know, I don't know.
Just in case.
Just in case, just in case. Anybody, y'all listen to Joe Budden podcast? Y'all should.
Nah.
I think it's good. You know, people forget they're a music podcast. I think it's a good learning source for me personally.
The usual like posts I be seeing on like Facebook or Instagram is just him like just talking his crap.
Yeah, because those are the viral parts. But if you listen to the whole thing, he's dropping jewels.
What's happening?
What's going down? What's going? Let me see. Ooh, I told y'all. Hold on, let me make you a co-host. I said, for the minute he gets on, it's gonna look different. Like he just looks cooler than the rest of us.
No, man, we're the same, bro.
I know. So we got about 1 minute. I'm gonna give everybody a chance to get on. I know we got some people coming from other classes, so I'm gonna give us about an extra minute. I'm sending out the email now, and I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm really excited. Okay, let me make sure everybody got what they need, because then a lot of times I get off these calls, I get bombarded. Yo, you ain't send me the link.
Right.
Okay, we got Fernando, Chris, Freddie, Victor. Hey, Alicia.
Hey.
We wish you went to the University of Illinois, but that's okay. Oh man, so you got almost everybody. Let me get one more minute for people to come through.
No worries, man.
Excited. Brendan, what's going on, man? Brendan, this is your speed right here. Yeah, Fernando, Freddie, you want it? Yeah, he said that's a 4K HD camera, huh?
Yeah. It's there's a company called Blackmagic. They make cinema cameras, and they wanted me to try one out for a few months, so I'll be using it in here. I like it.
Oh, the camera is nice.
Yeah, the 6K, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. It's like the longest name ever, but the camera's amazing. It's probably the best one I've ever had in here for this purpose.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They steady be making like video cameras, cinematic cameras. It's real nice.
I don't know if y'all know, but if you're on campus, if you do any type of projects with grade school students, the UIUC Film Society has a Blackmagic that they'll loan out to you.
Oh, nice. Which one?
I think it's the Pocket. I think it's the Pocket. That's the smallest one, because I know they make that bigger one too.
Yeah, they just came out with what is it, the Ursa, like the Ursa Pro, but it's like a 12K sensor in it. Just like I don't even know what you do with a 12K sensor.
It probably costs $12,000 too.
Right. I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, you're supposed to just rent those, but I'm just like 12K. Like
who even got 12K?
Where can you watch it? You know what I mean? Like, do you put multiple TVs together? Like, do I just make like a wall and screen? How do you watch 12K? Like, how's that even a thing? Like,
all right, man. Hey,
like, what kind of hard drive do you need to process 12K footage? Like,
actually, that's real talk, because I was using that Red. Like, we did need like 4 or 5 hard drives, it seemed like.
Right.
Yeah.
Terabyte a minute. Like,
or if you try to do like the 60 or 120 just to get your little 12 seconds of B-roll, it eats up like, you know what I'm saying, 20 gigs.
Exactly. Yeah, man.
Without further ado, we got people coming in, man. I want to go ahead and get started because I'm very excited. So the reason we have a full house, I see the homies, I see 803 Music, I see Jay Sharm on here. So this is what we did. So because of Zoom and everything, people are getting like Zoom fatigue, right? So we've been trying to meet like once a week for each class. So for beat making, I don't think we met on Monday. We met for the other two classes. What I did was I just invited everybody here because what you do is that special, man. So we got a full house. I think we got like 14 people in beat making class. We got some other guests joining us. But here's why I thought this was important, because I think I had hit you on social media like about a month or like 6 weeks ago. I said, because I listen to funk records, I sample, I do it differently, but I listen to records, right? And so I know my bands like Mother's Finest and Confunction and Gap Band, and I be listening. One of my favorite things is when I hear funk bands make ballads, right? And I think that was around the time I said, man, you take that line between funk and soul and you just fuzz it up. You know what I'm saying? And so I really wanted to get behind the rhyme and reason of what you do. But not only that, for a group of aspiring beat makers, this undergrad demo really loves lo-fi. You know what I mean? Beats to study and chill by. You know what I'm saying? So I thought it'd be appropriate to have you on here. I think that what you do is amazing. All of you work with Controllerise and everything you do. So without further ado, I'm gonna just be quiet, man. Please welcome to class. Please welcome to class. With no vowels, Stlndrms.
Peace and love. Peace and love. How y'all doing? Yeah, there we go. What's happening? How y'all doing? I see my man got a drum set in the back. That's really tight. The Zoom shit is cool, man. I've been doing a lot of Zoom calls since quarantine. So shout out to Zoom for keeping us entertained and not going crazy, giving us social contact. Well, as close as you can get to actually dealing with other people. You know what I mean? My name is Drums. I'm actually Chris. My name is Chris. People call me Drums. Long story short, I'm a producer. I make beats, been a full-time producer for about 5 years. Had a lot of great opportunities in my small career. I've been able to travel the world and tour in a few countries, as well as around the U.S. I've knocked off the majority of the bucket list stuff that I had for music. Been able to work with a few artists that I really look up to. And we started a small collective in Atlanta called Controllerise, and grew it from about 100-person show on a weekly basis to about an 800-person show every week, which is still kind of confusing to me how we got 800 people to hang out and listen to beats and watch cartoons, but we did that shit, so that was tight. COVID kind of killed that, so we started a thing called Sidechain Society, which is a course series. Every week I send out a video course and explain a different part of being a full-time musician, like from writing a proposal to how you process drums to why you would find a certain sample to how do you get your stuff to swing in the way that you do, all of that, whatever. Lighting techniques and camera tech from bottom to top, whatever questions people have. I try and make between like a 15 an hour long video to explain it. Yeah, and that's been going pretty good, man. We're about 300 deep over there. I also sold a bunch of drum kits, made like, a little over 100, 150 grand selling drum kits, which is fucking crazy. Yeah, that stuff. I never knew that you could do that, but you can do that, and that's awesome. But yeah, long story short, music changed my life. It's amazing. I had a 9-to-5 job for a long time. I didn't start as a professional musician until about 35 years old or something like that. 34. I didn't think I could do it, and then I did it. So here we are, doing a class at a college, talking to you guys about music, which is out of control. I make lo-fi beats. People like lo-fi beats. So we're going to dive into a bit of that. I'll essentially open up an Ableton session, play some loops that I made on a live stream the other day. That's another thing we've been doing. We're doing like a daily live stream on Twitch and YouTube called Making Beats with My Friends. You guys are more than welcome to tune in whenever. I'm Stlndrms on all of the social media stuff. But yeah, I'll play you a couple of loops that we made, and then we'll talk about how I made them. And feel free to any questions whatsoever. Like, it'd be really awkward if I just sit here and talk the whole time. So like, yeah, just whatever questions you guys have, just shoot. I'm here for you.
We actually got one question off rip. Somebody said, is that an Aston mic?
It is. It's a spirit, man. I like it. It's really dope. Or it's an origin. I'm sorry, it's an origin. It's the little one, not the big one. Spirit is the big one. But this shit is tight, man. I like the tone. I like the sound. Sounds cool. I got a bunch of UAD processing to make it sound cooler. But yeah, this shit it's a really good mic for like $200. I highly suggest it. Yeah, let's dive into Ableton, man, and nerd out. One good time. So I'm a Ableton user. One time, if you're an Ableton user, I don't know if everybody in here is Ableton geeks or nah. Everybody, I see some hell nods over there. Okay. That's cool. You know, I was on Fruity Loops for a minute too. I did that thing. And then I played with Reason for a little bit. And then I had a Logic period. You know what I mean? Machine, I was there for a while. I did a lot of hardware shit too. So it all works. You can use whatever. Doesn't matter. I just like Ableton because the workflow is easy to perform with. And that's what I find myself doing most of the time. So here's some drums and some samples. Enough of that. So let's talk about drums and samples and shit. What questions do you guys have, if any? Feel free. I definitely don't want to do all the talking. Awkward silence. Dun, 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 dun.
How do you decide like what you're going to do with a sample?
Great question. I like that question. Thanks for that. Yeah, so there's a combination of things I'm looking for specifically when it comes to sample. One of them, I would say the most important thing to me is texture, which is why, like, for the majority of the time I made music, I only sample records. I was one of those like, nah, B, I'm only going to sample off the record, guys. And it was 100% just like, I need that texture. I found that later on, you know, you can kind of manufacture some of that texture. So like I have a couple of channels in here that are just record noise that I run all the time, like this. You know, as a means to kind of give me some of that still. So I can still quasi give myself some of that texture, but still like there's no way around like somebody recording in the studio on a $15,000 tube mic running through some old ass cable from the 70s into a tube bass console with tube bass compression, and all the tubes are like non-perfect and non-linear and messed up in their own magical way, and all of that stuff is all working together to create a sound and an aesthetic. And there's like literally 2 record labels in existence right now still making that music. So yeah, that is the main thing I'm looking for. After that, it's like feeling, which is a very, very like quantifiable thing, but feeling though, like, you know, does this shit make you feel good? Do I feel good today? Am I pissed off? Does this make me feel angry? Is this something that, you know, will kind of take you to a different place? Is this weird, mysterious, whatever your emotional state is? I'm trying to kind of, you know, give that through the sample. So I'm looking for something that gives me that aesthetic, you know what I mean? And then lastly, I would say something that's not in the way. So a lot of times I'll find samples that have a bunch of elements, like sometimes there'll be too many drums or like there's fills all over the place, and I can't find a way to make that sample groove with the way that I want my shit to move. So, you know, at times they're complementary. Like you can take the drums and all the stuff in a record and kind of use it with what you have going on, and that works fine. But at times it's like this shit is whatever they were doing doesn't work with what I'm doing today. So, you know, it's probably not going to be a good look for me to chop this up and work with it. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question. What else you got? I like that question. That's tight.
When we did our sampling unit, so part of my job is to lend pedagogy to this, right?
Okay.
So we determined that there's 3 ways to sample. You can it's chops, it's stabs, and it's loops, right?
Okay.
And I'm sure you understand what all those are. When do you know when to do what?
Okay, great question. You'll find situations where you can loop when you come across something that's like atmospheric. That's really easy to loop. And like Ableton's a really good example of loopy stuff. Like you can loop all day in here. Let's just run these drums. Actually, let's do it this way because they sound weird by themselves and so. And I'm gonna just find a loop of something and throw it in here and see what we get. And hopefully it doesn't suck. But Ableton's cool for that purpose, right? Like you can just say, I want a random thing and let's see what it sounds like. I think this is like Tchaikovsky or some shit. Oh yeah, this will work though. I just throw it in here. And then I'm gonna find like a 1-bar loop and see what we get. It works. But it works because it's not in the way. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing else there. That's actually kind of hard. I like that. Hey, yo. That's it. That's that shit.
Wait. Did you adjust the pitch? Because did you adjust the pitch on that?
Yeah. I just pitched it up a couple semitones transposed it a couple semitones up.
God, you did it. I mean, okay, so I need to point that out because you did something that's huge right there, but you did it so nonchalant. So we're trying to approach musicology from a different perspective, right? And so as we reshape our program, everybody in the Department of Music is like, hey, dolls are cool, hip hop is cool, but what about music theory, right? And so what we're trying to do is explore the ways in which people implement music theory skills, but non-traditionally. That's what you just did. You pitch something up. You see what I'm saying? But it's just one of those things. I just wanted to point that out. You know what I mean? It's probably nothing to you, but it's a big deal to somebody else that they're just learning.
I can feel that. But yeah, you know.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit? How you kind of like the fine tuning to get stuff to match key?
Yeah, for sure. So it's like, you know, you develop an ear over time. Like I DJ from time to time also. And what you do is you find that the pattern of the drums work with the sample at a certain tempo or at a certain tone or at a certain pitch, and they don't work at other pitches. Or maybe like, in this case, this being at a lower pitch, like the original pitch. Like if you really listen to the sample, because of what I have going on with the compression and shit, it's muddy now. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it sounds cool, but the high end is like really, really subdued. There's not a lot of top mids there. You know what I mean? And there's just like a lot of mud. It's just in the way. So I'm gonna pitch this up a couple semitones. And a lot of that mud goes away. Like, it's like, cool, now I got some space. And I'm doing like this, I'm sending out a completely separate channel to kind of acquire the bass, right? So I have like a low pass filter and then some compression and some EQ to boost the low end of things. I got that on a bus, and I'm just sending the version of this over there to give myself more bass. And I definitely could have tuned this to get rid of that same mud, but I'm lazy sometimes and I want to work fast. So it's like, nah, I'm just gonna pitch it up and I get what I want. Yeah.
So what I noticed was, one, it was in key at both pitches.
In key?
To me, it sounded good with both pitches, right?
Yeah, I pitched up 3 semitones, so it should still be in the same scale. You know what I mean? Like if you're on a major scale, I went from like the first to the third, essentially.
Ooh, I'm just hearing you connect what we do to music theory, right? And that's what my ears are ringing off. Also, I be hammering into their heads, compose with frequency in mind.
Mhm.
Right? And I'm watching you make musical decisions based on frequency too.
Facts. It's all one big ass pot. So like, essentially, like you're making a soup, and this used to get on my nerves, but they'd be like, "Your music is like soup, bro." I used to hate that shit, but it makes sense. So like all of the different elements in the soup work together. Like if you're trying to make some fire ramen, like, and you put too much miso in, it's going to be nasty. Or if you put too much pepper in, it's going to be too hot. Or if like the noodles stay in there for too long, they're going to be soggy. Like all of these things can destroy your pot of ramen. You know what I mean? So like I'm working with the mix elements at the same time that I'm working with tone, at the same time that I'm working with theory, at the same time that I'm working with pocket and swing, and they're all equally important. But you hear them all at the same time, and that's really the skill set, is being able to hear them all and be like, oh no, that pocket's a little bit weird. On this particular sample, I need to move this kick drum a half a millisecond earlier, even though that's not going to line up, obviously, like with the what you call it, the grid. You know, it still makes more sense because like the way the thing is moving, it's not about the grid per se, it's about the entirety of the whole thing and shit. So yeah, somebody raise their hand though.
Yes, Noah.
Okay.
Hey, I was just wondering if you could say a little bit more about how you like approach drumming or your drums in general, just to get that feel of like tearing apart, but also just like sitting so well. Like what's your process and your approach to that?
Mix wise or feel wise?
More like feel wise, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. Let's just make some drums, and then we'll have a discussion about what we're making as we make it. That sound cool?
That sounds perfect. Thank you.
All right, so we'll use the same sample, and then we'll use a metronome. So I'm about to say, I hope I recorded that shit. So I study the Shaolin drunken style of drumming. You know, my people come from the Wu-Tang Clan. You feel me? So I'm not using a metronome. I'm using a metronome, but I'm not using a metronome. Essentially, like I turned that shit on so collectively we can hear where I was at, timing wise. 9 times out of 10 it's not on. Once I kind of find a groove, I may like lay some hi-hats down or something to get time. But once I figure out what's going on, I'll turn that shit off so it doesn't get in the way. Because what happens is you end up fighting the samples timing in order to lock in with your metronome. And really your internal clock is the thing that you want to use. Like it's not so much about the metronome. Like you have a clock. Like when you listen to music and you bob your head, that shit's on time. Like if you can walk, you have rhythm. Like guaranteed. Like so it's like use that more so than you do a metronome. However, you know, shit does have to line up and sync up and whatnot. And that's kind of, you know, what makes sense for using the program and all that other shit. Anywho, it's another reason I use Ableton, by the way. I'm digressing. But Ableton has this thing where I can just play some random drums and it'll say, oh, that's tight. And then figure out what BPM I was playing at and then sync everything up to go along with that shit. But we got our first little layer of drums. So now I need some hi-hats. And I know this is sloppy, but I want to like accentuate that sloppiness. And the whole thing I'm trying to create is swing. So I want to make you anticipate things. So that snare is a little bit late. It's not quite on the one, you know what I'm saying? It's a little bit behind. And other elements are going to be early. You feel what I'm saying? But yeah. Accentuating that anticipation. So, but none of this shit is on time. It's all way off technically. If you're like one of those on the grid guys, you pissed at me right now because all my shit is way all over the place. You know what I mean? And I might only want a half a bar of this shit because I just wanted to swing like that, and I want that to be consistent. So we're gonna loop just that. I even like this little double hat at the beginning. That's kind of tight. I want to add another layer of stuff to that just to kind of continue that movement. You feel me? That swing. So let's do a single layer of what's the name? I'm gonna come back to that for another reason though. I think you'll like that shit too. See what I'm talking about with workflow? That's why, this is why I like Ableton, because I don't have to stop. I can just like keep going all day. This is literally what I do on a live stream. I just do this shit for like an hour and make a bunch of beats like this. And I'm like, thanks guys for hanging out. We're out of here, you know what I mean?
For Ableton, the push like
What's that?
so the push kind of sequence is like the MPC in a sense.
In a way, but it actually, it's a cheat code because they have this shit called capture mode. So I'm relying so heavy on capture mode right now, it doesn't make sense. But that's what I'm doing. Like when I'm just hitting groove, I'm doing a shortcut for capture mode. And then it's saying like, yeah, I'll take that last 2 bars that you just played and I'll loop it for you. You know what I mean?
Because I'm
Yeah.
looking for the sequencer, right? Because we always break it down. Hey, devices, sequencer, mixer, right? And so I'm like,
Right.
well, he got the little MIDI thing down at the bottom because I'm looking for the little thing that tells you when the loop is coming back around.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
that's
remember-
happening in these clips up here, in these little
Yeah.
green squares that look like Excel spreadsheet things. Yeah.
Like efficacy aside, I've had this push that the university bought me for 3 months and I only used it like one day.
Woof, you are slipping. If you're a
Right,
sample head,
and I have records of it's efficacy. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So can you talk about just like you're fearless, you're not scared to try stuff? Can you just talk about that part a little bit?
yeah. So I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I was born in 1981. So yes, we had crack houses, and they tried to burn down my house. And both my uncles got shot, and you know, I seen some crazy shit as a young kid. And then my pops was in the military, flew around the world. And he went to war a couple times, and then I went to the Air Force, and I was in a forward Air Force base during conflict. But I was in the Air Force, so it wasn't no real shit. Anyway, long story short, real things have happened in my life. So why would I be scared of some music shit? Like, this is music shit. So like, and anybody can attest to that. Anybody has had real things happen to them in life. You know, I'm sure if you're a dude at one point in time, you've been intimidated or somebody punched you in your face at some point. Not to say that that's cool. Violence is whack. It's not cool at all. But like, real things happen in real life. So why be afraid of fucking computers and music? And, you know, it's not there for that. I'm also like a really firm believer in individuality, and there's a reason you guys all have fingerprints, and you know, your hair grows the way it does, and you think how you think. Like, nobody's supposed to follow groupthink just for the sake of. Like, that's weird to me personally. So again, like, it doesn't really matter what quote unquote works or doesn't work, or what quote unquote is cool or isn't cool. Like, you are cool, so you should do you. If you fucking dilute yourself in order to appease some imaginary people that you don't even know, where do people get you from? They don't. You just don't exist anymore. So fucking be your best self, because you're the only person who could do that. So yeah, there's my 2 cents on that. Yeah.
But please continue.
Okay. So yeah, we got some drums. Some pretty gangster drums. I like these drums actually. Let me see, where's my little loop at that we had going earlier? So if you want, we can chop up a sample. If you want to do that, we can chop up a sample. Okay. So let's do that. We'll find a sample and chop it up. But that's looping. Ableton is really good at looping, and then I can do cool shit like I can duplicate this loop really quickly, and then slide it to the left or right just a little bit, and then are you gonna duplicate, right? What are you doing? Okay, cool. I thought I crashed it. But yeah, I can slide it around and have variations. So like a lot of people make beats like this. Some of my favorite producers before I hopped on Ableton made beats like this, and I was like really mad for a little bit because I was like, dude, like you're just looping stuff. What? I've been working so hard to chop, and you guys have just been out here in LA on Boiler Room looking cool and shit, playing loops. What the hell? Like, it's not cool, but it is cool because they found the right loops and they dig crazy and they find the right records to loop. So there's still plenty of skill applied. And then, you know, then they hopped on keys and showed me that they were actually fucking phenomenal musicians and were like, no, I can loop, but I can also play circles around your ass. So I was like, okay, then loop is okay. But anyway, check it out. So I'm just going to slide this, let's say this way a little bit now, and I'll get a different loop. So we'll go back to the first one. It's slightly different. Maybe that's weird, like we want it later. Yeah. But all I did is slide it, you know? And then I go get me another loop. And essentially I have 3 different variations on the same beat, and now I can be like, yeah, that's a beat. That was a little weird, so I probably would move it or some shit, but anywho, yeah. Looping in Ableton is amazing, and I use that shit all the time. So if we're gonna chop up something, we'll dig in here and find something to chop up real quick, and then we'll talk about that. But I think that'd be a really good way to kind of illustrate why I'm doing things, and we can have a conversation about it as we do it. Another thing I would suggest too is start to listen to older records, find motifs, find themes, find textures, find tones, shit that you like, and then flip over the record, look at the back of it, find the producer, find the musicians, because those are the people that make the sound. So like you like, oh, I love Marvin Gaye, but you don't know the drummer or the producer or any of that other stuff. You could just go get a bunch of Marvin Gaye records. But if you know, like, yo, Clyde Stolefield's the drummer on this record, then you can go find everything he played drums on ever. You know what I mean? And then it'd be across genres, but it's going to be the same tone of drums and sounds and shit like that. Or you can be like, Tony Maserati is the hardest fucking engineer I ever heard in my life. He made, you know, this record for Rod Stewart. And then like you can go find 100 Tony Maserati records. And then now you have that same tonality across 20 different genres and whatnot. Or you find arrangers like Bob James is a tight ass jazz musician, but at the same time, he's a fire producer. So like if you type in produced by Bob James, yeah, you're going to get stupid amounts of stuff to sample from like people that you never heard of before because he had a role type of thing. Anyway, 2 cents on sampling. Let's find something cool to chop up. So off top, this sounds like so Griselda to me. I don't know if y'all hear that.
That's well,
like,
all the stuff you've been making today. I'm like, because like 3 years ago, I wouldn't have said that, but now it's like, yo, this is Griselda.
It is, yeah, it is. I sent them a pack. I have had a couple conversations with Westside, and I really like what they're doing, man. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thanks for doing this class. So piggybacking off of what you just said, so like with Clyde Stubblefield, is there a sample pack or where do you get your samples from to get those sounds, those authentic sounds, drum sounds?
Drum sounds? That's a great question. So there's a couple places. I give you guys some sources, you know, because we're in the class and that's cool. So these sounds that you're hearing, there's a company called Drum Drops, and their whole thing is period specific recording processes. So they went and re-recorded in the style of Men for Soul, a drum set. So it's the same set, same players, same studio, same gear, you know, and they put this kit together. And they're not expensive kits, but they're period specific. So then I take that and then I'll do what I do to it, which is not much on this channel, but on my bus I did some other stuff. So like in this case, I added a little bit of additional tape saturation because I wanted the bottom to have that kind of bloomy thing to it that tape does. I added this thing called the voice of God because without it, I don't have as much low end. That gives me a little bit more boom boom. I like that, you know what I mean? If I take the tape off, it just doesn't have as much, you know, that low end thing. As a Ssl channel, essentially just giving me more of like top and bottom, a little more air, a little more bottom type of thing. And then there's a whole rack of other shit happening as far as like a master bus is concerned. There's some compression, a lot of compression. I over compress on purpose. It's kind of like an aesthetic thing for me. Some of that 2 EQ that we were talking about earlier to give me, you know, kind of more accentuating top and bottom. But this is, everything is running through this master chain, by the way. Then there's a master bus processor with some stereo enhancement. I'm also making everything below 100 hertz mono, pushing the high end even more, pushing the low end even more, and then adding more character with the processing that they have in here for compression. Yeah. Then it also gives you like a good kind of indicator to let you know if like you're killing all of your dynamic range. Like, yeah, I want to over compress and I like that sound, but I don't want to not have dynamic range either. You know what I mean? So what this is showing me is that like the green is like you're good, the red is like you don't have enough, and the black is like, yo, you have plenty, like you have more than most records on the radio do. So then after that processor, I'm coming out of that into, this is like my favorite fucking limiter of all time ever. The Oxford limiter. This is a native plugin you can buy. If you don't have UAD, you can still get it. But it has this one knob, this enhance knob. This is like literally the only reason I have this thing. It's also a fire limiter in general, but I play it without. Watch this. I love that thing. But yeah, so that I'm doing all that to the drums, and then post me making this beat live, because this is all like for my live setup. So post me making this beat live, I would actually fly this into this program, which is Luna. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Luna, but it's very similar to how Pro Tools works. And then there's some additional internal process, and they have a Neve summing kind of thing that they're doing in here, and then like a tape summing kind of thing where they're adding additional harmonics and additional imperfections intentionally to kind of create that like same punch and feel that you would get, you know, if you mix on a big console. So yeah, that's what I'm doing to create the drum sound.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of different joints like from that same company, Drum Drops. There's a Neo Soul kit that's pretty fire. And then they got a modern funk kit. I just went and bought everything on their website. And then Addictive Drums. But
Yeah,
I use
that's the one
these.
I'm familiar with is Addictive.
Yeah,
But-
they got some shit on Addictive, man. Same thing, like I would say this about Addictive, like go build your own kit. Don't just like take one at face value. Like my kick, my snare, the hi-hats, everything came from different places, and I just like mixed them all up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so and I don't want to take up too much class time, so I can email you or get your information to talk more specific. But I'm a drummer as well too, and I'm using the Roland SPS, the second generation.
Okay.
So not the newest one, but I'm having trouble with mapping, so that when I use to plug in the MIDI,
Mhm.
it's not connecting to all the correct pads. So like the bass drum may be the tom, but we can talk about that, you know,
Yeah.
later. But
That's gonna be one of those like CC number things where you have to figure out what number goes to what. Yeah, that's the challenge. I can see that being a headache, boy.
and they're frustrating.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah.
when you're trying to use the same kind of sounds live, you know. In a
Burn
live
some
setting.
sage, meditate, find your
Oh, yeah.
sensor, then figure that shit out. It's gonna take a minute, bro. But yeah, Sidechain Society, we're constantly doing shit like that. Like us there's bumping around, like there's literally a video on every
On
facet
that
of what we
note, I
talked
do
about
want
so
to
far.
stop you right there because somebody said, "Where do you be live streaming?" So can you drop all the links for Sidechain Society, you, Controllerise, all that? Can you drop that in the chat?
Yeah, let me do that. Yeah, I got you. I'll drop
And
it
I
before we
can
head out.
talk a little bit while you do that too. So one thing I want to look at next, as you gave us those links, is so it's a different conversation when you're talking about boom bap and lo-fi. So we got into this heavy like sequencing thing, right?
Okay.
And so as we're talking about sequencing, so when I first started making beats, I had an MPC 2000, which I liked for a certain style of beats, but it cost more than reason. So it just didn't seem like now I might do it, you know what I mean? And then do it in MPC and then fly it. But what I would get a lot of is, yo, that's gonna be dope when that's finished, right? Because I was making grooves kind of like how we're hearing, like at the time listening to Jay-Z, 50, you know what I'm saying, Kanye, those grooves, but I'm not knowing that. I know that's the part I pick up on, but that's not the whole song, right? So recently, when I got deep into the philosophy of sequencing, I sought out Atlantic's sequencing formula because it's one of the most popular that you're gonna hear all over the radio, right? But when you're talking about boom bap, when you're talking about lo-fi, when you're talking about like when you say you had a conversation with West Side Gun, fucking, they don't have hooks. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Like, how do you approach sequencing as a philosophy when you're making this type of music?
That's a great question. And this is probably a part where I'm going to defer from like popular, conversation. Cause like I came into this as a performer, you know what I mean? I came into this as somebody who was making beats to go play them on a stage somewhere. I didn't come into this with the intent to go work with rappers at some point. It was more, I'm just going to copy all of this shit. That's what I'm going to do. Forgive like the stuff that doesn't apply. I apologize. But yeah. But yeah, I came into this with intent, like, I wanted to play low end theory. I wanted to play a Boiler Room. That's what I wanted, so I didn't require a certain song structure or any of that to do that. I just required some tight ass beats and a way to kind of seamlessly navigate through them, you know what I mean? In a way that was tight for the audience. So I made grooves like you talked about, and that was what I did. And that worked for me. And it's funny because the musicians that approach me at this point are artists that rap on shit that don't follow the rules. So they're like, yeah, I want to rap on your stuff. And, I don't care that it's just an 8-bar loop for like 5 minutes. That's kind of what I want. You know what I mean? Or I don't care that there's 14 B sections in this one record, because sometimes I get a little manic or whatever and I'll make a 5-minute song that has like 10 beats in it. And they're like, that's tight. I'll rap on all of that shit, So I think, and just like even just normal, even the radio stuff at this point is becoming more, how you say, people are less formulatic, you know what I mean, than they were beforehand. So they're getting to a place where it's like, yeah, you'll hear a Sir record on the radio and he's not following traditional song structure at all. Or like K-Dot is not, they don't care about any of the rules. They're just doing what they want to do. So even like Saba and McJenkins and No Name and all of them, they're doing what they feel like doing. Like none of that stuff follows a distinct formula. And I think that's tight. So, yeah, short answer. I don't pay any attention to the rules. I guess it's probably the short answer.
Okay.
Hey, I have a question really quick. Like you said about like not being formulaic, I kind of like that, mentality, kind of just going with the sample. Do you have examples where you yourself use multiple samples on a record? Maybe you took drums from a certain sample and use it with like, another sample, you just heard something,
right.
You just meshed it together, creative way.
We apologies for cutting you off, man. I tend to do that like a lot with like acapellas. So like say like this thing we have going, I don't know if this will line up, but we'll see. So I have this shit going. This is off a trap record, right? But then I may open another Serato sample joint. And this is Future, so it's off a trap. But this is a completely different record. Yeah, so
that's
like
awesome.
just start layering shit. Like that's the whole thing, man. Like one of my OGs, his name is Raj G. Rest in peace, Raj G. Dude's a legend. Shout out Leimert Park in LA. For anybody in here from that area. But yeah, so that's his thing. He was like, yo, layer, just keep adding shit until it's too much and then take a little bit away. And that's it. You know, there's no rules though.
Yeah, that was great. Nice.
Man, appreciate it. Where were we at? What were we talking about? Oh, chopping samples. Yeah. Let's get back to that. So damn, that was a tight ass sample that we had. I don't know where it went. Let's see. I think this might have been it. Nah, that wasn't it. Whatever. I kind of want that thing we had.
Oh, you were going through so much heat on the way to that thing.
Yeah. I have a stockpile of tight ass samples. That's another thing I suggest is start digging. Like, just start finding stuff that's tight and saving it. It's good to have.
Have you been sued or sent to cease and desist?
Never.
How, Sway? I'd be like, I would do that except, and I'm like, this dude is just doing it.
Another OG of mine who's released probably over 100 actual vinyls, and excuse me, probably had 20 million streams total. From quoting him, he said, "Fuck that shit. I'm just putting it out, and when they hit me, we'll talk about it." That was his MO.
Facts.
Yeah.
Music business lesson of the day.
Yeah. And if if that seems wild coming from that perspective, there's a really famous quote from, well, not quote, but somebody was on a fucking Breakfast Club talking about Diddy. And basically they were like, yo, Diddy had sampled my shit. And he had put out all these albums and one of them shits went platinum. And I hit him and he was like, yeah, what you want?
Yep.
Whatever you want. I got you, man. We done made millions off that shit. How much do you want? Like, what's yours? It's yours. You earned it. What do you want? And then they discussed and figured it out. And that seems weird, but he was like, yo, I don't know what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. And if I send everybody $50,000 to make their record go, then I'll never put any records out. So I'm putting them all out. And then, we'll have that discussion when it's time. And
people don't see you unless you're making money, right? People don't see you unless you're making money.
Facts. So yeah, that part. And I got a couple records that's over 1 million plays. So,
shit.
They haven't hit me yet. I don't want to like jinx myself or no shit like that. And I've been on Who Sampled and shit, but I guess maybe I'm lucky or whatever. But yeah, so far so good.
Cookies gets a lot of run in our house.
I mean, that's played though. I played all that shit. Yeah, and I appreciate it though. Yeah. But yeah, like a lot of that early stuff. Nah, man. I was just out there living the life. I was living on the edge.
I had a quick question before we get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that?
What's that?
Yeah. I wanted to ask, but riding on the wave of risk here. But have you ever had to go to the interpolation route when it comes to sampling?
I haven't yet. It's one of those kind of like, should I end up in a situation where it's necessary, I'll definitely I'll go that route. But I haven't found myself in that situation yet. But like 1 million plays in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot of plays. So I think I still have a long way to go before I'm really, on people's radar, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I think most of us do. Like, the reality is, if you put your tape out tomorrow, it's not super likely that you're going to do 20 million plays on a stream and end up in a situation where A&Rs from labels are going to be like, wait a minute, what's going on? Or like, which is horrible business advice because it's kind of weird, ethically. But that's the reality of the situation. Like, after doing business with multiple record labels, I don't feel bad. And that's, I don't know if this is like, me corrupting young minds and shit, but I don't, dude. Like, every every relationship that I've had with an actual record label, I've had to fight for every penny, like tooth and nail, to not get screwed over. And then most of them I lose and I end up getting screwed over anyway. And everybody's like, congratulations, bro. And I'm like, yeah, I got played. And yeah, you know, but that's the record industry. That's how it works. The people that work in those offices aren't like, yo, let me just do great business and pay everybody as much as I possibly can. They're like, how can we finesse so we can keep our money? And it sucks, but that's the game. I don't know if that answers your question. And I kind of sound like a bitter old man. So my bad.
It's always what I've learned being in Atlanta, and the more people I talk to, behind every story that on the other side looks like an overwhelming success, there's a lot of them type of feelings. So it's almost like,
bro, like
what you really get paid for is the good part of where they screwed you.
That's why I love the people, man. Like, that's why I'm like, I'm so about community and so about trying to teach other people how to create and then live alternatively without having to like play this game where you chase the coattails of an artist and like rely on them to do good business by you for you to feed your family. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, there's an entire group of people, hence this whole lo-fi thing, hence me even being on this call. There's an entire group of people that will support folks in a real way just because they make dope music and it makes them feel good. You know what I mean? And you don't have to like go find a rapper or somebody else to sit behind in order to pay your rent. That's not necessary. You don't have to do that. You know what I mean? And then to be real with you, the more that you don't do it and the more that you really just build with strangers and like hang out and have fun and enjoy life and try and inspire other people to do the same thing, the more artists that come by you and actually want to do good business with you. Because then you like, they're like, damn, that dude's really cool and he has an established brand. I don't want to play him because like, you know, I'm gonna feel bad about that, you know? And I can have more frank conversations with people. Like, I had a conversation with Westside Gunn and I was like, hey, this is what I want, bro. Like, I don't, you know, this is it, square business, let's do this. And it was like, yeah, let's do that, bro. And that was a conversation I could have because I exist. You know what I mean? I exist, quote unquote. And I'm sure he does square business by everybody. I don't have any reason to doubt this guy. But I think like had I just been a random beat that they found on BeatStars, I don't think the conversation would have been the same type of thing, you know? Somebody raise their hand. Or maybe it's been raised. I think it's been raised.
Somebody had a hand up?
Yeah. But I think it had already been raised.
Oh yeah, that was my question.
So yeah, let's chop the sample up, man. So the way there's a couple of different ways to do this. There's a plugin called Serato Sample, which is really cool and really easy, really straightforward. And then Ableton has the simpler built in, and I like the simpler. I like them both, but for samples, a lot of time I'll start with simpler. It's a little bit more of a manual process. It takes a little bit more time, but it makes me feel, it gives me the same vibe as my MPC did. So I work that way. But again, like you can use anything. Like it doesn't really matter what you use. You can use something else if you use Guru or Battery or whatever. Like it doesn't matter. I'm just kind of queuing up this stuff on this channel before I get started because I want it to sound like my stuff normally sounds. That's another thing too, is like finding a good sound to work with, like be it just some stuff on a bus, like a compressor and some other little bits and pieces, but find something that gives you the aesthetic that you want. You know what I mean? As you're creating, that shit helps a ton. This is why I have this weird ass, like Ableton. I have literal like a snake coming out of a sound card going into another sound card. So I can skip the latency engine outside of Ableton, but that's some super nerdy shit. I don't know. We can get into that if you want to get into it, but yeah, it's high level geekery for sure. All right, so I'm gonna zoom out, boom, 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 start, end, and then we'll do some slicing. Let me throw this up here so you guys can kind of see what's going on. Poly, manual slicing. All right, and then I got pad slicing on, so I'll just hit a pad. All right, and that's gonna be really loud. So before we do anything else, let me turn that down a little bit. Here, and then I need the full, what do you call it? Device sampler, no accent. And a lot of times you're looking for like some kind of something to hit when your drums are hitting. Cause like a lot of you chop on beat. At least I do, most of the time. So I got this so far. Cleaning up as I go. Let me turn this down a little bit more. So I'm cleaning up the sound as I'm going, started making sure everything hits on some kind of transient.
Just the FYI for what you're doing right now, I happen to have the transcribed instructions, so I'll put them in the chat.
I have no idea what you said. What was that?
I actually have the transcribed instructions for what you're doing, so I went ahead and put them in the chat so you can follow along a little bit, just to know how to adjust the endpoints.
Hell yeah, that's what's up, man. There's some wild on with this bass. We got stuff. It's cool. All right, so a couple things happened that I noticed already. Number one, I didn't sync this up to the timing of what else we had going on in the session. So we got to figure that out. Number two, I don't know what time signature this is. It's like some weird, crazy, multiple time signature thing happening. At least I'm hearing some 4/4 shit, but there's like some really wild stuff going on. I don't know if y'all heard the hi-hats doing all that crazy shit in the background. We're just gonna ignore it. That's what we're gonna do. Because yeah, why not? So let's play our drums and see if this syncs up at all. I doubt it does, but if it doesn't, then we'll just adjust. Like basically, I'll turn the warp engine off and just adjust the sample so it lines up. We'll get rid of those dudes for right now. So that's cool. I could probably just loop that shit. Let's see, just for time's sake. Yeah, that's cool. Need a little bit more volume on that shit.
kind of currency type.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. When we bring our friends back, we bring the homies back. And maybe we want a different drum situation. Maybe we want to vary the drums in some kind of way. But we'll throw like a little kick and snare action in there. Oh shit, I fucked it up. I messed it up, man. Messed it up. Just lost the groove. So let's talk about the sample chops and why I picked the chops. Essentially, I was just looking for things that hit on some kind of transient that I can use with the pattern that I had in my brain with the kicks and the snares and whatnot. I kind of, you know, you can kind of feel like I feel where the pattern was, what it was doing earlier. So I know I was going to use that. So it was like picking different elements that I could just throw in there and they would land on the kick and not be weird, or land on the snare and not be weird. And usually it's just transients. And like the hi-hat stuff was super weird. It was all like really crazy double time signature stuff happening, but I knew it was low enough in mix that I didn't care. I could just ignore it and it would get out of the way. Which is one of the reasons we kind of ended up with this sample in the first place, because the elements like a percussion were low enough that I could just like smash it, compress it. There's this thing called a Ssl Transient Designer, or SPL Transient Designer. I'll play the sample with and without, so you can kind of check that out. Or not. Oh, here we go. Okay. So that's with it. And now you can hear those hi-hats are a little bit louder. Not much. But basically it's just taking whatever transients are there and smushing them. Kind of like what a compressor does, just a little bit cleaner. And then I got this giant ass side chain. So like, if you're sidechaining your kick super hard, it's going to make the sample move in a rhythmic way. It's going to make everything, like, this is why K Tornado is so tight. Well, not one of the reasons anyway, is because like he's sidechaining this entire mix to the kick drum. So it all moves and it makes you groove. Like, you know, everything has the same bounce, regardless of what the fucking timing is that he's playing. Like, it's going to have the same bounce, which is why he can have like a soca rhythm with some soul chords and some jazz solos on top, and it works because like everything's gonna bounce to this big ass kick drum, and it's gonna be this fire movement. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, that part.
Damn,
so,
that was jewels right there. That was real jewels. Because everybody like, first of all, sidechain. Do you know the stupid shit that I do?
What's that?
I don't like sidechaining. And reason to me is so complicated that I'll literally just manually do a volume dip on the 808 when the kick hits, right?
Yeah.
But now you're describing to me sidechaining to achieve groove, which is new to me personally.
Yeah, that's my intent at all times. That's the only reason I'm using it, to be honest. It's
I
to make
thought
things
of it
move.
as a mix tool. Damn, okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that purpose too, you know what I mean? So it's going to give my kick space to breathe and be bigger than what it actually is. But like, it's also providing movement. And that's really the intended use to be, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's like, I want this whole record to move in the same way. I want everything in this record to make you do the same shit. Like, I want your head nodding in the same way, because everything is telling you to do that. Even like the hi-hats, and playing them off beat and weird and shit, but they still hit when they're supposed to hit. I still have more volume or more, you know, velocity on the shit that's gonna make your head nod, even though it's this weird, crazy ass pattern. So you're hearing all this stuff and it sounds all over the place, but the reality is I'm really hitting you on a 1 and a 3 really hard every time, and then everything else is accoutrements. And, you know what I'm saying? Like, like extra shit, just trying to make it flavorful, you know? So
real quick, technically class ended at the half hour.
Oh man.
But we grooving, so I don't want to stop you. Is there anybody that has to go? Anybody got to go? You got to go. You know, feel free to say goodbye, roll out. We appreciate you. Everybody smooth. All right, let's keep rolling.
Cool. What other questions do you guys have? Awkward silence.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So when I don't know in terms of how you approach making a beat, but let's say if you choose the loop first before you choose what sounds you want, such as the drums,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what sounds would fit that loop in terms of just like what snare, what kick, what clap, etc.
That's a great question. So, you know, again, it kind of comes back to like that texture thing. So like say a couple of the samples we were listening to had this really kind of like, if you listen to it, it has like this compressed, like recordy vibe to it. You know what I mean? It has that like, that smushness to it. You know what I mean? So I know either A, I can try and accommodate that with something period specific, or B, I can say, okay, I'm going to do the opposite intentionally so that my stuff stands out. So I'm going to use a really clean kick, a really clean snare as like the polar opposite of that, like really dirty sample. And I'm kind of dirty in the bump a little bit, but they're going to stand way out if I do that, which is intentional for this type of shit. But I may want to do something that kind of works within, you know what I mean, the sample sound. So say like you have like Roy Ayers is a good example of stuff that's really clean and shit. Let me see if I can find something that's tight from him. I'm trying to find Sunshine. But everybody knows that record, but it's not in here, at least not in this folder. But long story short is, this is from a fucking movie soundtrack called Coffee. Just movie soundtracks are another phenomenal place to find samples. But yeah, Roy Ayers has a lot of space in his kind of like mixes and shit anyway. So like we could really like layer sounds that would sound similar to his shit and just make them bigger, and you'll get more of like a cohesive sound. So it's like, you know, sometimes that works, or sometimes I'll find some electronic shit and that's like really, really electronic. So it doesn't have a lot of tape and room and all of that stuff in it to make it sound organic. And it's like, okay, maybe I want to go with a dirtier drum to offset this cleaning, like this really clean sample, or vice versa. It's like, you can kind of play with it in that way. It's like flavors, to kind of go back to that soup thing. You know, you can kind of figure out what makes the most sense. Like based on me having these really bland noodles or rice, what do I want to color the meal with? You know what I mean? Or maybe it's dirty rice and already has hella color, so I don't want to add too much color on my drums because they'll fight with each other. So I'm gonna go clean. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Great question. Shit, what do? We did like a sample. We chopped the sample up. We made some drums. Anybody else got any questions? I'm here for it.
How did you build your audience?
That's an amazing question. I would suggest like just being really honest and just trying to do things that are tight for the audience that you want to be in front of. Like, it's not my audience per se. It's like I work for them. You know what I mean? Like, so when I do things, I'm like intentional about how I'm doing them, because like my end game isn't to make me tight, it's to make them happy, if that makes any sense. But in my way, like I'm not going to like sacrifice me. I'm not going to like go be some other person or some shit like that. But at the same time, it's like I was doing live streams and I would put the whole Ableton thing up, like kind of like what you guys are seeing right now. And then I was like, everybody does this shit. Like Kenny Beats does this shit. And he's killing it. He has like 50 bajillion people doing this. Why would I do what he's doing? That doesn't even make sense. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to do something else. Fuck that. I'm not going to try and beat Kenny Beats. Kenny Beats is the best Kenny Beats in the world. So can't beat him. Fuck that. You know, I got to do my own thing. So I'll show you what I ended up doing for live stream. Actually, let's see if we can do that. I went this route and then I threw my browser in, or there's my comments, but I threw this guy in, and then instead of having it look like this, I like made it transparent. Like, you know, now it's, you know, kind of like, that's some wavy shit. And my superpower is this really cool looking shot that I got in here. So It's like I can just really focus on the cinematography, and then you have Ableton as an aesthetic versus it being the out front thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, go back to where we were.
I think that's one of the most impressive things was, I remember I told you that from the moment I first linked up with you. I was like, yo, that camera angle looks so wet.
Yeah.
Right? It's that camera angle. And then your music is dope.
Right. That's what makes you stop scrolling. If I'm honest, like that's why you stop scrolling. It's like scroll. That looks interesting. What's that? And then click it and it's like, oh, that beat's kind of tight. Who's this person? And then I talk and it's like, oh, he's like a regular fucking dude. I want to hang out with him. He seems like a good dude to fucking drink beer with and watch cartoons and shit. Like he's a regular person. I'm not like a rapper or no shit like that. So I identify with other producers like myself, and we're all like the same. So we all fucking geek out and do nerdy producer shit. So like I kind of leaned into that. Like that's really who I am. So I'm gonna just do that. And that's the only thing I've ever done to grow my audience is just be as honest as I possibly can. Like I had a whole ass, probably shouldn't tell you guys this shit because it may be inappropriate, but I had a whole ass like existential crisis. My homie gifted me with some organic technology, and post organic technology experience, I had a whole ass existential crisis. And I'm like, yo, I got dreads and I'm doing shit on my page intentionally to appease this brand or these people who subscribe to this brand. And like, I cut my hair off. I was like, I sleep on my hair, it gets in my way. Like it's like inconvenient at times. I'm just cutting this shit off. I'm getting it out the way. And it took me like a month to do that shit because I was like, yo, what the fuck? This painting's painted of me with this hair. Like, will the fans appreciate me cutting it? And I was like, what are you doing? Like, who is that person? Like, cut that shit off if it's in a way. So, this
is what I remember. I go, oh, he cut his hair. Cool.
Facts. But I got like a million messages like, oh my God, no, you did that. And it was just like, yeah, this shit gets in my way. Like, and it stinks sometimes. So I cut that shit off. Like, and that's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay for me to be done with that and move on and fucking be yourself. And like, I don't think that's weird, but I really had to think about it. And I was like, I was pissed at myself for thinking about that shit. Like, anyway, grow your audience, be yourself to the fullest extent possible. And you'll find other people that like the shit that you like, and you guys will hang out, and then more people will come. That's pretty much it.
Hey man, well, I don't want to keep everybody for too long because I know some of us do have to go to classes, and also you've given us so much, man. So real quick before I round things out, I just want to ask the class a couple questions. One, is there anything he did that you want to do and don't know how to do in your DAW? Just want to see that. And obviously, if you don't have Ableton, the whole performance piece doesn't come the same. So that might be different, but there's like an $80 version of Ableton. But is there anything he did that you want to do that you can't do in your DAW? That's the first question.
Awkward silence.
They be thinking. I know they be
thinking. It's like me and my wife were watching this fucking, it's like Key and Peele or some, it wasn't even Key and Peele, it was pre-Key and Peele. It was like, what's some dudes from Nickelodeon?
Oh, Keenan and Kel.
Yeah, Keenan and Kel. And they had like a game show and nobody would answer a question. And Kel was like, awkward silence. And we both died laughing. And we've like, it's literally been like a 15-year-old inside joke. And I do that shit anytime it's quiet.
How dope is that to say you've been with your lady since Nickelodeon, though?
Facts. Yeah, we've been hanging out for a long ass time, dude.
Yeah. All right, and then the next question is, did you learn something today? Give me a thumbs up if you learned something, and please share what you learned if you want to share that. Brendan gave me Brendan is like a boom bap head. Like, yeah. What you got, Brendan?
First off, your whole sampling process was like mind blowing. But I really I really think the biggest takeaway I'm going to take is the big side chain, but then also the bus on the sample for the bass frequencies to sort of like clean that up and be able to treat that separately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would also make another one and send a copy over there for highs, because what you do is you put like ping pong delays or tape echoes and things of that nature in a high bus to give additional movement. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit. It'll add texture and movement and shit.
What else did we learn we want to share? Because I saw a lot of thumbs and hands up.
Just with the sampling, like I try and sample, but I'm not the best at it. And the like where the cut where like the transients are. Like that was really helpful to just hear that.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Glad I can be of assistance.
Hey, Stolen, do you remember Boondock?
Yeah, Boondock was tight
That's
as
how
hell.
that's how I learned how to chop.
Yeah, Boondock is why I bought an MPC 1000. Look here.
Yeah. God, what man? That I've been doing this for a long time because I ain't seen Boondock online in a good minute.
He's still making records, dude. He got beat tape that dropped like last year, I want to say. Yeah. He's still tight. Yeah. Plays like every instrument now and shit. Yeah, that's the other side of this thing. I'm not a great player, but I can play a tiny little bit. And that's a whole completely different process. It's trying to build records in that way. Cause like I'm weird. I don't think that way. I came from records, so I'm trying to build something that has the same landscape as a sample. So I end up doing all this weird, crazy shit to try and build musical scapes. You know what I mean? But that's another conversation for sure. Cause that shit is wild. But no, this was tight. I appreciate you guys fucking hanging out, man, and let me be a nerd for a couple hours. You know what I mean? That shit is beautiful.
Wrap it up, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
This has been really dope, man. Thank you. I think in as much as the knowledge too, like the energy, you have a very calming presence. You know what I mean? Especially in the face of all that's going on, man. I think that's really dope. I appreciate you dropping jewels. Any last words from anyone before we head out? I'll give you the last word, sir.
Cool. I say this shit every show I've ever done in my life. Even on my live streams, awkwardly in places where it's not appropriate, still say it. But I'm gonna say today, as always, 3 things. Number 1, life is good. 2, time is precious. 3, make somebody smile because that shit is tight. Drink water, eat fruit, stay grateful, pay it forward, remain humble, and yeah, fucking stay present because there's no future or past. If you don't live right now it's tight. So enjoy this shit. Also, if social media has you fucked up because it looks like the world is falling apart, go outside to talk to somebody because actual people aren't the same as the stuff you see on social media. So don't let it get to you too much and go vote because what the fuck?
Yeah. Salute. We'll see y'all later, man. Thank you.
All right, bro.